Well, I got a live now.
Okay, you got the
Oh yeah,
live now. I
live
was
recording.
asking if you saw the countdown. So on my end, when I hit go live, I got like a 5-second countdown. And so yes, now we are live, which you guys got the update about. Yes, and we do the wiggle, all that. Good. Oh wow, I'm better at that than I thought I would be. All right.
The
Yeah,
more you know.
Yeah, I got some rhythm. It's because of the few old fashions I've had. Anyway, hello out there for the 3 of you who might actually watch this, not including Joe, because he doesn't watch even before he's a guest. Thank you for coming back to.
Now I gotta go back and
guys.
watch them now.
Yeah, now you gotta go back and watch them. It'd be nice if you were actually sitting somewhere other than your couch. No, I'm just fucking with you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I got you, Joe. Guys Night, episode 3. I'm glad I've got Joe Panarisi. We're just gonna call him Joe tonight. That's cool, right? Yeah, we already discussed
Yep.
that. We got my buddy Robert Grant. He was on episode 2. He's back. He's our first consecutive guest host. These are all, going to be recurring co-hosts, thankfully, hopefully. And then we've got somebody that I have been dying to have on here. The only one besides Jesse, who was on episode 1, who is also one of the interviews that I've done on the channel, the one-on-one interviews, more of a formal style. Devlon, thank you so much for joining, buddy. I've been looking forward to having you for a while.
No problem. Happy I can make it.
Yeah, man. I'll be honest. When I first had the idea to start like a podcast style discussion with a select group of guys, you were one of the first ones that came to mind. Just because I know how, specifically important the topic of mental health and mental health in general, men's mental health therapy. Like on your episode where I did the interview with you, you shared a lot of really great stuff. So really happy to have you on. You go ahead and start us off. First kind of check-in that I wanted to do. Robert already, gave us some preview about what he's had going on. How's your holidays been? You excited for Christmas coming up? What's everything been like for you, buddy?
Yeah, holiday time period is going great for me so far. I've been off this whole week with my son while he's been out here visiting from North Carolina. So just been spending time with him, and my fiance, she just finished up her work week today. So now she's on vacation for a week herself. And on Saturday, we're having Christmas with our families because my son has to fly back on Sunday. So we're going ahead and doing Christmas on Saturday with my mom, her parents, and the whole family, my sister, her husband. And so we're all going to get together on Saturday and do gift exchange and meal together and everything. So yeah, I'm loving this time period.
I do want to give Joe and Robert a chance to say hi, but you touched on something I do want to ask you because I'm going through some differences in past years when it comes to the whole, divorced, separated, separate, shared Christmases or whatever kind of situation right now. Sounds like you've got a pretty good rhythm to that down, or a pretty good situation.
My son's holiday visits were part of our divorce agreement. So it's pretty much, we already know every year, the trip schedule and all that is kind of, we've been at it for years now. It's like clockwork for everyone. So it's not really we're out of the adjustment period when it comes to that. So we kind of center it around how the holiday falls. So I don't really care about I care about the amount of time that I have with him. So it was nothing for me to agree for him to go back on Christmas Eve so he could have actual Christmas, with his mom and her family. Because I'm not really like, I need to have him on this particular day, or any of that stuff doesn't really mean anything to me or matter to me. So we have a really, really smooth process when it comes to that sort of thing.
Well, that's good. I think that was one of the things that took me a while to get used to. And I'm still getting used to it. And that's why I asked you that question, is because I remember for a long time, and I'll be honest, even to this day, Like I'm really weird about celebrating the holiday not on the holiday.
Mhm. It
And
does bother you.
it has.
Mhm.
I'm getting past it, I'm getting over it, and I'm realizing that that's my own hang up, and it's silly at the end of the day. Like you said, really the time is what matters. And I'll be honest, I probably have made the time that I've had on certain years not as special as it could have been because of that kind of silly hang up. So
I will
I'm
push
just
back.
curious.
I will push back against that a little bit and say that like it's not really. I don't consider it silly if it's something that matters to you. I just think
Mm.
the only important thing is that everyone express what matters to them, and then you find a good compromise once everyone's needs and desires are on the table. Like that's the biggest thing that we had to work out. So now me and my ex-wife and her partner and my fiance, like once a week, like we get together on a phone call and we discuss all things relevant to my son weekly. And so we have a space every week for everyone to voice, like if something's bothering you or if you want something to be different, like you could make that known, and then everyone can take that into consideration and adjust around it. So I don't really think there's any like silly desires or that shouldn't matter, or if it matters to you, it matters to you. It's just a matter of like you prioritizing communication of that mattering, you know what I mean? And so
Well,
everyone's
shit.
aware of
Well, shit. Thank you for making me feel better
it.
about
Yeah.
that.
What do
And
you
you're
do for a
absolutely right.
living?
Say that again.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a planning editor at a news station and I'm a freelance photographer.
Fire ass photographer, by the way.
Thank you,
Oh my
sir.
god, that dude is good. Yeah.
I appreciate
No, it's
that.
just
Thank
like
you.
you might be the most mature person I've ever encountered.
Oh,
It's just
Oh
straight
god.
up like,
oh
Oh
no.
god, yes.
like
No,
what was that? It was like that sounds like the kind of shit you'd only see in like a movie family situation.
I appreciate
So
that, but
that's crazy.
I mean, and
I
that's
just
me and
couldn't
John.
believe that's
Well, me and John have talked about that. It's like that's the kind of stuff that like I owe to therapy. Like I definitely, I've been, I'm kind of in a unique spot from the people I've talked to anyway, in that I've gone through a lot of different types of therapy. So I've been through individual therapy, group therapy, couples counseling, anger management. So I've seen like a swath of different styles, and I like landed on one that worked best for
Okay.
me. In the last, I want to say like 7 years, I think 2015 ish. Yeah, so it's been a while of just kind of really committing to the process, and I'm light years ahead of where I was. But that growth has definitely come out of that process. Like it's definitely like I didn't start with any like all this stuff.
But I will say, Rob, you hit the nail on the head though. He's one of the most mature, intelligent, reasoned, well-reasoned people. Even the shit that we even disagree on, we always reach a conclusion where it's just like high five, handshake, pound.
no,
Like I get it. You know what I
it,
mean? I
it's
would
just
highly recommend. I'm gonna share it in the comments. For you or for anybody out there, go watch my interview with him
mhm.
from a few months back when I was experimenting with interviews. And I mean, if you want to get to know him, like I think there was no interview that I had where somebody got as real and as raw as quickly as he did in the way that he did. It was
Yeah.
really
Well,
impressive.
I don't even have circumstances that even look like that, but I'm like, okay, let me write that down. That's a great idea.
I
That's
appreciate that, man.
that's
I'm
No,
glad.
yeah.
no, no offense, Rob. I got as long as I've known you and I love you, I got a feeling you're a little more petty. You
Oh yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I try and pull from Devlon's
Yeah.
maturity, but I also love your pettiness
That
sometimes
is very
on
petty. I
certain things.
really
I love it. You got to have that mix. But
No,
anyway,
I
Rob, go ahead.
absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think anytime any of the stuff that I've learned is beneficial to anyone else, like I'm always super grateful for that. Just that exchange.
Yeah, no, I think you definitely Rob picked up on it very quickly, but you've demonstrated to me over a long period of time that you have achieved a level of empathy and really just a concern for your child and the well-being of your child to put everything else below that, right? Like that's your top priority, and it's very evident, and it's admirable. So and again, welcome, and that's why I love to have you here. Rob, So you were telling us about you were here last, what was it, last week or the week
About a week
prior.
ago.
You were telling us a little bit about your night earlier. How's shit been? How you doing, man?
I mean, this is the busiest time of the year for me. So I've been trying to just get through it. Like it's literally just get it done. Tomorrow's really the last day. So we'll see. But yeah, I had to go about an hour out of town to a work Christmas party. And for some reason, they just wanted as many people there as they could because most of us work like um, remotely and like in different parts of the state. So they try to get people in the same room when they can. So it's there for that, and then just trudging through. Being in the greeting card business during Christmas is
Yeah.
busy.
And you do,
So,
and you do, if I remember correctly, you do financial assessment and coaching, right? For
well,
people
yeah,
like,
that's what I do. My job. So my job is it's a weird title that doesn't mean much. It's startup catalyst, but we're
mhm,
basically business consultants for startup companies that are
gotcha.
looking to get investments or to scale.
Okay, so part of your process is analyzing like their financial plans and all that stuff, right?
It's at least half of the process,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, which he started the very beginnings with me on an individual level, and I've done a terrible job of actually following through
Of
with
Well,
implementing
everything.
the.
I wasn't gonna, bust you out like that yet, but it was
Hey,
fun.
I called myself out on the last episode. I'll call myself out again. All right, just let me get through the fucking holidays. I'm like white knuckling it through the fucking holidays right now. I'm just like, please, just let me get through this. Let the new year come. I'm done with this shit. But no, it's funny too. As a recruiter, one of the for those who don't know, I've got my career. My professional career is in recruiting. I've been in recruiting for over 10 years. One of the funniest things for me is job titles. What did you say it was again, Robert? Something catalyst,
A startup catalyst, but like
startup catalyst.
my legal one is even more vague. It's
Uh-huh.
um research faculty.
Research faculty. All right. So either
Yeah,
one of those. So I've
even
always
worse.
loved, one of the funniest things I have in recruiting, and I give like resume advice to people out there who are like looking for their next career. Um, do yourself a favor out there. I'm not talking to anybody on this call, but yeah, if the shoe fits, if your company comes up with some off the fucking wall job title, just translate it. Don't put that shit on your resume when you're looking for a new job. Like if they call you lead fucking people cheerleader, but you're an HR generalist, just put HR generalist. Do not put lead people cheerleader as your fucking job. Just translate it. It's okay. I don't care what your previous company called you. Just put what the accepted norm of what you actually did is for other companies. Honestly, I love the companies trying to come up with more creative titles. I'm not against it. I think it's kind of cool, but I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen people put a job title where it's like, what does that even mean?
What do you think? What do you think about putting that job title and then in parentheses putting like HR generalist?
Also something that would work, but you want to at least have in there, what the normal nomenclature would be.
Mhm.
Not only because, for the obvious, it'll get you past like the AI keyword kind of crap. Because if I go into a resume database for a candidate and I type in, job title of HR generalist, it's not gonna pull your resume up if you just have lead people
Right.
cheerleader who loves fries or something. And so I've seen some crazy ones. And so yeah, the parentheses would work at least to get you past the keyword and robot search. But basically what I always advise people is the level that matters is when a human being, me as a recruiter, is viewing your resume, and I'm viewing, especially for a highly sought after position, I'm viewing 100 resumes, in an hour or two. And so you want to I'm really not going into a lot of detail. Like I'm sharing some of the things that I share in my resume consultations that I do, but like I'm not reading your 15 freaking bullets. I don't care about your fancy made up job title doesn't apply anywhere else. I'm looking at, where you worked, what your job title was, and how long you were there. And if you don't catch my attention with those couple of things within, 15 to 30 seconds at most, I'm moving on to the next resume. And,
15,
so,
30
yeah.
seconds.
Well, it depends on the role. I've been recruiting for, like I said, over 10 years for a lot of roles. And yeah, obviously that changes if I'm hiring for a very niche position where I get 3 applications over the course of a month. I'm probably going to look at everybody's resume pretty closely. But especially if you're going for a competitive job that I got 100 applications for, I've only got 8 hours in the freaking day and I need to get somebody hired. I'm looking for, for example, project manager. As soon as I see a resume that says project manager, between 5 to 10 years, I'm already calling you. I'm not even reading the rest. I'm like, okay, I'm calling this person because I can't tell you how many resumes don't even have that in the title when that's what they're applying for, and that's what they have experience in, but they didn't have the. Go for it.
What's in a name? What is your thought when you see a batshit crazy name?
You mean like a person's name?
Yes, on a resume.
Ooh. That all right. That's a question that I would answer differently at work, or at least more carefully than I will here, because this is my show and I will say whatever the fuck I want. Biases, conscious, known, or subconscious and unknown, they're real. And automatically, I will be honest, if I see a name that's like really off the wall or odd or something like that, there's an initial like like a raising of an eyebrow. Sure. I will say, oh, my daughter's running across the house for some reason. Hi. I will say I've worked on that specific unconscious bias enough over my 10 plus years in recruiting to know some of my best hires, the best people I've hired, have had off the wall names, or had other things that I maybe previously would have had some unconscious biases for. But a less experienced recruiter, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that's not something that can have an impact on their hiring decision.
Now,
if you're looking at a resume that says Robert Grant and it has ABC experience and everything you're looking for, and you have the exact same kind of resume, exact same experience, but that kind of off the wall name, for a less experienced recruiter who doesn't know that you should call both, it might influence which one they call first. And it's just a reality of human conscious bias or human unconscious bias even.
What were you about to say,
Go ahead.
Yeah, not to make this like a resume talk or anything, but like out of curiosity,
this show is whatever the fuck we want to do. So.
Out of curiosity, like when you see a resume, when someone adds their pronouns, what does that like do? Because I heard some people say like they immediately throw that shit away because they don't want to risk them being troublemakers.
So, so now we're getting into a conversation of what's right versus what's reality when it comes to job seeking. And there was a really interesting debate on LinkedIn that I ended up falling very recently, that I ended up falling on the opposite side of most people on LinkedIn, but most people on LinkedIn haven't hired for a living for the past. Well, yes, that's one. And for two, like most people aren't, haven't been in the recruiting industry as I have for the past 10 years. It was about the open to work banner. You guys know that thing? Like the green, if you're familiar with LinkedIn, like you can put the open to work banner on your profile picture, letting people know that you're open to work. And so it's just like a feature. Like on Facebook, they used to have like, I support Ukraine or whatever the fuck it was. And you can have like a special little thing on your profile picture. And so there was this big debate about, because this Google article came out, or it wasn't a Google article, but it was an article that was interviewing an ex-Google recruiter. And he was basically saying, like, don't use the open to work banner. Like it makes you look desperate. came off very negative, and so there was this big debate on LinkedIn, with a bunch of people like going on these long, rants about how they're not desperate, the layoffs this and the economy that, and it's not fair. They're not desperate. They're just excited to work and blah blah blah. And I ended up keeping my mouth shut just because I realized if I spoke up too loudly, I was just going way against the crowd. But what I really ended up finding was if you listened to what the Google recruiter, ex Google recruiter, was really saying, he was saying it was a cost versus benefit um, argument, basically. The cost of putting the open to work banner is much more likely to happen than any benefit. Like, I'm not going to hire somebody because they have that green banner on their profile, but I could see how some recruiters would feel like that. And does that make it right that they would feel like it's desperate, or like this was isn't a desirable candidate? No, it doesn't make it right, but I could see how that could be an unconscious bias. And so that's kind of the same way I feel about the pronouns thing or anything else on your resume. Like, if you can't demonstrate an actual value in putting it, then why the fuck even do it? Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
at
where I
that.
was.
Yeah,
That's
go
where I
ahead.
was thinking because my I look at it a lot like I look at dating. Like I think
Mhm.
there's some recruiters for whom, I mean, the same decision can have a different impact across five different people who are all in the same position of recruiter, right? So it's like this guy might have come from a school of thought where it's like this is an automatic red flag, and this guy might come from a school of thought where he's like this is a trend that we're seeing in great, energetic, enthusiastic new employees. Um, and I can't anticipate those preferences for people who I haven't met yet. So if I'm gonna put like for me, I would put if I mean I haven't been job hunting for a long time, but if I was and I were to choose to put he him on a resume, my intention behind it would be I have a name that a lot of people have not heard before. I'm clarifying that when I was a kid, I used to have people call me
I
my
would
Dr.
say, and you would have a legitimate reason for
when
doing
I
so
when I
with
speak
that,
when
in
I
that
speak
case.
to
Yeah.
Miss Douglas, and I'm just like, no, so like literally that would be my motivation behind that. Someone might see that and be like, oh, that's a political statement by him doing that. Is he going to be a pro? But it's just like I probably don't want to work with those people anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like I gotta judge if I do that. Why am I doing it? And if I feel like I have a reason for doing it, I gotta stand on that and just like I'm looking for a work environment that's going to take me, so I need to make the most authentic choice to me, and then hopefully end up in an environment that wants me.
Yeah.
And a lot of recruitment, like motivational speaking that I've heard, I feel like encourages a lot of potential employees to mold themselves to be what spaces want them to be rather than seek
Mm.
out spaces that they fit into as they are. Because you'll definitely end up in an unhappy space trying to just be like, oh, do I need to stand? How do you want me to stand? Do I need to do you have to stop using these words? What words do you not like people to use? Like that kind of thing. You can get so wrapped up in that they're just getting like
And
this empty vessel. Um,
and I can 100% appreciate that, especially as somebody who has shared openly on my channel, on my YouTube channel, about my career issues with companies that I've worked for, and what I fell into recently and everything. Like, being a culture fit and feeling like you don't have to pretend to be something that you're not to work for a company, if you're going to work for a company and not be an amazing entrepreneur like our buddy Rob over here. If you're going to work in corporate America, it is very important that you find where you fit. But I wouldn't really call it a rebuttal. Um my kind
Caution.
of advice from from a recruiter's perspective is, I'm talking about you getting an interview. And the fact is that um I want, especially if they're a client or somebody that I'm seeing, for resume advice and career search and job tips. My job is to give you the best information I can for you to get an interview with a hiring manager. And Devlon, to your point, you may have a it may be a company that's the perfect fit for you, but you may be dealing with a single recruiter that has some biases, whether conscious or unconscious. And my job when I'm advising somebody like that is to get you to a fucking interview with somebody who matters, not the recruiter. And I'll say this, as a recruiter, I'm not the one who matters. I am the one who decides that first step and whether or not the hiring manager sees your resume, but I'm not the actual decision maker. I have never hired anybody ever. In 10 years of recruiting, I have never been responsible for hiring somebody. I've been responsible for presenting the candidates that the hiring manager gets to hire. And so I would say that, again, my advice typically professionally would be, avoid anything that could prevent you from getting your resume in front of the person who matters. And whether or not I'm a jackass, the company may end up being a great opportunity, and I don't want the people that I advise to miss out on that opportunity
Yeah.
because they included some shit that was just, it didn't help, it didn't have a benefit,
Right.
and
And,
it may have a
that's what I'm
cost.
saying. It's
Yeah.
like if you were my recruiter, I would listen to all the advice and then just take it in and do the cost benefit analysis thing and still go with the decision that, like, I might land on a decision that is in opposition to what you suggested, but I'm going to do
Mhm.
that after hearing you out and thinking about, well, how do I view that suggestion? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just
Yeah.
going to be
And
like,
if you
I'm not listening to anybody. I do what I want. It's just, at the end, I'm going to make the decision that allows me to walk away from the situation feeling like I was myself.
Yeah, which I think is fair. I am 100% a proponent of standing on morals and values, whatever they are, whether or not I agree or disagree with them. But like I said, at the end of the day, Joe, to answer your question before I finally introduce you, because we've had some interesting conversations so far and I've loved it. If you guys can't tell, I love talking about this topic. It's not the point of the show. I should make a whole nother channel for recruiting shit. I will say this before I jump to you, Joe. No one has ever not been hired because they didn't put pronouns on their resume. I guarantee you there are a large number of people who haven't even been interviewed because they did. And so when I talk about that cost benefit, like, again, there's nobody who's ever not gotten the interview because they didn't put the pronouns. There are plenty of people, just, from my knowledge of recruiting, who haven't gotten the interview because they did. So again, take that for what you will. But Joe, what's up, buddy? How you been? I love the professional podcast setup that you've got. You got the pictures on the wall. I love it.
The pictures, but nah, everything's been good. Working, chilling. As you saw in the in the group chat or in the Facebook group, I've been hitting the gym, working out hard, trying to get in shape. Take the fitness thing seriously. I've been on and off fitness for years since I got out of the army, so
Dude, me and you've
finally
been
taking
talking
it
about it for
serious.
years. We used to talk Mind Pump, remember? Fucking
Yeah,
years
my
ago.
pump. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Robert, are you getting attacked? Holy shit. What is happening over I don't know if you guys saw him. He looked. Did a cat attack you? All right, yeah. That's either a cat attacked him or he dropped a cigarette butt on himself. Those are the two reactions that I can think of. Gather yourself. It's okay, sir.
I'm
No,
muted. I'm
Yeah.
muted. There was an insect crawling up my pants.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It could be a bug.
On the inside.
On the inside.
Yeah.
That'll freak
cool.
you out.
That's what I get for
that's
being
the only
fake.
reason. One of the big reasons I like the winter. Most insects are dead.
Yeah, they're
every
going
time.
away.
Every time. So my son comes to visit like 5 times throughout the year, and usually he comes in the summer. He comes twice in the summer, and that's all he does is go back to North Carolina, complain about, I can't stand the bugs at Daddy's house. I'm just like, you can't get away from the Texas heat. Like the bugs are trying to get away from the Texas heat. That's why they're coming in the house in the summertime. But thankfully,
Yes,
like
sir.
no complaints about bugs this time since it's in the winter. Thankfully,
Yeah, I hate bugs.
I do
Can't
too.
stand it.
I'm just saying, Robert. I ain't never seen you move like that. Joe was talking. I saw that dude shuffling. Oh man, that shit was good. So Joe, back to you, and hopefully bugless, wherever the fuck you are, North Carolina or some shit. Yeah, man, we used to talk about Mind Pump back in the day. I'm glad you're still sticking with it, man. Have you still? You saw me, man. I got in great shape. Well, I was in shit shape when I got divorced, and then I got in great shape, which I'll share a secret as to what most people don't know about how great a shape I got in. And then, honestly, I'm healthier and happier than I have been in a long time, but I definitely I need to get back on the treadmill. Have you been more consistent than me, sir?
Yeah. I've been since beginning of November. I've been pretty much going 5 days a week.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
What's your
it,
activity? What are you doing?
weightlifting.
weights,
Mhm.
weightlifting. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
get some
I'm trying to get into
muscle
powerlifting,
Nice. My fiance is doing the same thing. She just started with a powerlifting coach.
and ordered some peptides. They came in. I'm gonna start doing them in the new year.
Dude, you
See
told me
how that
about peptides like a year and a half ago. You've never actually gotten into it yourself?
price. They're expensive, but
Yeah.
I decided to finally jump on that, give that a shot, see what that does.
Yeah, we got a in men's group, which you mentioned earlier, and I'll go ahead and shout out for whatever random internet person might be watching this. We have a private men's Facebook group. I'll share it in the comments and description after this. Men's mental health and support group. But we've got a personal trainer and nurse, Chris. I actually interviewed him as well earlier on my YouTube adventures, and he's one of our group experts. And I remember posting about peptides, and even him, he's a healthcare professional and a fitness coach, and he had an overall thumbs up about peptides. It's early, and they haven't been around for very, very long. It's not like we've got 20, 30 years of research on them, but overall he was saying that they seem viable and safe and healthy from all the studies and research so far.
Yeah. So I'm like I said, I'll start that in the new year. See, I'll definitely give an update in the group how that works out for me.
So aren't
But
there different kinds too? Like
yeah,
there's
there's
weight
a
loss
ton of
ones,
different
muscle
times.
building. Like, do you know what you're going for?
Yeah, so I'm going for CJC. What is it? 1245, something like that. And basically, it's a peptide that causes you to produce more growth hormone, which also helps you lose some weight. It increases testosterone because of the extra growth hormone that you're producing. So it's pretty it's from what I've been reading, it seems to be a very common, popular one against for fitness people who for men who want to gain muscle, get cut down on weight and stuff like that. So
Yeah, maybe something I need to look into again because I was doing TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, for quite some time, and then I had that health scare last year, and I almost freaking died because of blood clots in my leg, and I'm still on blood thinners for the rest of my life now. And me and the doc were like, "Hey, yeah, maybe not a good idea to fuck around with the TRT anymore because it's a linked thing for anybody who doesn't know. If you are taking TRT, please keep up with your blood work. I When I showed up to the emergency room because I had pain in my leg, and I thought could just be a pulled muscle or something. Well, there was some enzyme that was elevated to the point where he thought it looked like I was having a massive heart attack. And the look of shock on his face that I was still up and walking around was not very reassuring. So yeah, be careful out there. Make sure you're keeping up with your fucking blood work if that's the case.
but shouldn't be your doctor have been keeping up with it
Yeah,
if you
well,
getting it prescribed?
we were doing the blood test, but it was only like every 3 months. And so I think most insurance and most TRT clinics, it's going to be at the best clinics on a monthly basis, but a clot can appear and kill you in a very short amount of time. And so the period between whenever my last check was and when I ended up in the emergency room, in that situation, I had a massive clot in my left calf. that I'm actually I need to go do a follow up because I'm not sure if it's actually gone yet. But I take blood thinners every day just to make sure. And blood clots. I have a friend when I ended up in the hospital because I shared a YouTube video about it. Who reached out to me? She lost her husband just a couple of Christmases ago. Actually, she's going. This is her time of year to remember that her husband of over 20 years, healthy as an ox, fit, black don't crack kind of guy, played basketball, healthy as hell, just fell over and died one day. They're no freaking joke. If you got that issue, don't play around with it. They're no freaking joke. I am very lucky to be alive right now. Actually, I don't know if you guys, how many of you have shared the story with personally. I know I shared it on the channel. I randomly, it was a big precipitator of a lot of the changes that I ended up making in my life. I randomly ended up taking this cross country drive for love, honestly. I took a chance on love and I did the romantic movie thing and I drove cross country. And when I got cross country over there by your neck of the woods, Joe and Robert, in North Carolina, I had this pain in my leg and it hurt. And I remember from a previous experience years and years ago that my fatigue plus the pain in my leg might be something that I need to get checked out. So I showed up at the emergency room, and yeah, come to find out, I was lucky to be alive. And I think if I hadn't gone on that cross country trip, I might have ended up, not being here today. So
Wow, that's
anyway,
crazy.
yeah, no, I shared a whole video about it, but Joe doesn't watch shit that I post. Apparently, even the shows that he's a
No,
co-host.
I remember you going to North Carolina. We talked about that. I didn't know about the blood clot.
You don't remember the me in the hospital, dude? I'm gonna tag you in that shit. Jesus, you're gonna be a co-host. Show your bro some support. Damn, at least Dev watches some of the shit.
Dude, it's just remembering is a different thing.
I know. I'm fucking with you, buddy. I'm fucking with you.
Memory.
So Robert, you actually hit on before we even started recording a topic that was actually on my list, which was company holiday parties. I had one last week. How was yours tonight? Tell me about it, and I've got my thoughts on mine from last week. Oh, you're on mute, buddy. The bug is gone. You can relax. You can take yourself off mute. It's okay.
You know what? Whatever. So the let's just, I guess, not name names. The university that I work for, um, they they go all out for parties, so they're always just ridiculous and honestly a lot of fun. So I kind of, it's worth my time.
So you were a fan then, even though you had to drive an hour. But I'm also curious because I've driven through Atlanta and fuck that traffic. If that hour was really 15 minutes, it just took an hour because it's Atlanta.
No, it takes about the same amount of time. I mean, honestly, I don't care about waiting in traffic that much. Like, I put on a podcast, my car drives itself. I'm just hanging out.
Oh, all right. Subtle flex there. I've become a Texan to where like I would much rather drive for an hour without traffic than sit in 20 minutes of actual traffic. Like legit.
I just put a podcast on and
Well, we don't all have
forget about it.
self-driving cars, and I have to hit the brake and the gas, and then the brake again, and then the gas, and then the brake twice, and then the gas half a time, and then the brake 3 more times.
But
All
even
right,
before that, I didn't care. Like I'm just very patient. Like I'm never in a rush. I'm never in a hurry.
Traffic definitely hits
Yeah,
different
see,
psychologies.
I'm the same way.
Which way?
Well, Robert's way. Just I don't care. I'll just.
I didn't even hear
the-
Devlin's way.
It drives me nuts.
I'm in the middle. I just said traffic hits different psychologies different. I'm somewhat of a hybrid. Like some days I could sit in traffic all day. I got my good podcast. I think I get frustrated when like I'm in traffic on a day when I've listened to all the week's podcasts that I listen to, and I'm like out of shit to listen to. or
Fair.
like just something that's pissed me off and it's in the back of my mind. So this is just extra irritating. Um, but I work downtown, and as you know, downtown Austin traffic is the worst.
Yeah.
And so just trying to go get something to eat at a place that's literally across the street is a battle.
Yeah,
Um,
it's that stop and go, and I do love like sitting in the car and listening to podcasts or music as well. But like Robert, me and you were talking last week about that ADHD thing where I'll like go off in my own little world in my head, and then actually come back to
mm,
reality. You got to hit the fucking
mhm,
brakes,
mhm.
and then I'm listening. I'm in the conversation. I'll get back to reality. Fucking
Yeah.
break,
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
break.
Fair. Fair.
Mm.
But
But I did want to touch on the Christmas party thing. So I had a big company Christmas party last week. They flew everybody across the country out. It was honestly, it was a great experience. Like it's the I've
yeah.
worked for a lot of corporations, and I have never seen a company put as much effort and real kind of heart and sincere heart. And I've gotten to know some of the executive team, and they put more heart into that Christmas party or holiday celebration or whatever you want to call it than I've seen in the past. But I'll also tell you this, like I shared a post in the men's group earlier. I had this picture with me and a big cheesy smile and the room behind me. I went outside and I cried afterwards. And then I came back, and this week, like I laid in bed for the first like 2 days, 2 3 days this week, like struggling. It was so fucking exhausting.
Mm,
Like I'm just curious what you guys thoughts are, because I'm sure there are people out there who are dealing with holiday parties. I don't
mhm,
know if in your case, like you, Robert, it's just a good time. I wish I had just had a good time, but honestly it was freaking exhausting for me. Like
mhm.
I was
Yeah.
emotionally and physically exhausted from it.
I
Wow.
mean, I think I am currently mentally and physically and emotionally exhausted. So I think what I've been enjoying about having Christmas parties to go to is like it's been like my moment to relax a little bit. Um, because I don't know what it is. Life just been life and the last like 60 days or so. So like, I guess me just kind of looking forward to just kind of just the breathe and like I can just
So
be
you
there.
feel like you could breathe? So, because for me, I feel like where that emotional exhaustion has come from has been, I feel like when I was there, even in the moments I was enjoying, I was at work, and it was a 3 day event. And the
Well, I'll
entire
tell you.
time, even when we were having fun, I was
Yeah,
at work. Like, you
I'll
know
tell
what
you
I
this.
mean?
So my like I mean I'm an entrepreneur, but I also have a job working with entrepreneurship. So
Mhm.
the job is kind of a situation where they hired me knowing what I am. Like they know what I am. Like it's not like I'm an employee in like more of a traditional sense to where like
Yeah,
I need
too
to
late,
be.
motherfuckers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's they need me, but it's kind of like you'd have like your professional you, your work you, and then the actual who you are. Like I don't need to make that switch in that setting. So I guess that's just kind of what allows me to just kind of just be able to relax. But I feel like most people couldn't completely relax in that setting because you'd have to
I,
at least be on your guard to not piss your boss off or you
I,
know,
I have thoughts on that, but I do
go ahead.
want to not be the one who talks the entire fucking time for the whole 2 hours. Dev and Joe, do you guys have to deal with the? You're both in the corporate world. Have to deal with
Yeah.
the Christmas parties and all that.
Interestingly enough, so I'll attend my partner's holiday parties when her company has them. So I have I know I'm not tied to anybody in that space. So that's just kind of like going to a get together that is just hang out and have free food. So I feel no stress in that space. But in my company's holiday events, it varies because we used to have formal holiday parties, and when Spectrum was not Spectrum News at the time, it was Time Warner Cable News back then. When they
Oh shit,
merged,
I remember those days. All right, I was
yeah,
in Texas at that time. Yeah.
when they merged with Charter Communications and became Spectrum, the parent company of today is not comfortable with those types of get-togethers. So the best we could pull out this year, after 2 years of having nothing, was an event last week. It's like across the street at this hotel. We went to like this second floor little dining room area, and they had like catered food. And we got together for like an hour or so in the middle of the workday and just gave what were you proud of with our work this year and kind of stuff. And then we went back to work. Um, so that was not the formal holiday party that we had in the past, which I had a great time
You had
with.
to go back to work.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally just like just in the middle of the day, just kind of like a take a break and go have lunch at this spot across the street because they, for whatever reason, they had to like weave between a bunch of policy limitations that would not allow them to have a formal reservation at a venue on a night where we actually have a dedicated party like we used to.
So I was gonna. It's very
terrible. We had a
interesting.
champagne wall.
Yeah,
It
no,
was. Yeah, we had a lot of
saw
drinking in mine too.
our past holiday party. I mean, and in the past, it was like the opposite end of that, where they had a lot of parties that were so unrestrained to the point where it just led to a bunch of unprofessional situations.
Do you feel like they went too far in the other direction?
Oh, absolutely. Like I also can see from like reading the room that like I'm atypical in the like environment that I work in, where like I'm a big like I'm a party type person in a sense that like I really like to get together, like let's play games. Let's
This is a dude who goes and does karaoke completely sober.
So
ladies and gentlemen, all night completely sober, ladies and gentlemen.
So
I've been there.
I'm like right now, if you were just like everybody, we're going to fucking play Connect 4 on a giant 100-foot screen, I'd be like, that's cool as hell to me. But a lot of other people, they want to be like, I don't know, like they're more like reserved and they don't like they try to do.
Never guessed that about you in a million years.
That's so Yeah, I'm super.
Yeah, I honestly, me neither. I'm with you, Robert. Like,
based on our short interaction, I would have never thought in a million. I thought you would have been like, yes, the holiday party is inefficient.
Yeah, this is a dude.
That's the thing.
Again,
like,
who
think I'm
regularly goes out and does karaoke completely sober around people who are drinking, doesn't have a single drink, and is the first one on stage and the last one to stop getting on stage.
No, first impression.
I have never met somebody more comfortable with just being him.
you probably think I'm super serious, right? Like that seems to be the typical first impression. Like
not super serious, but just that you wouldn't be that guy.
You would. He's very intellectual, but he knows how to have fun. That's for damn sure.
Like you would have to be. Like you kind of strike me as the person that you would have to be prompted to have fun.
Oh my God, no! I'm the one trying. That's the thing. Like I'm the one who's more uncomfortable with like I'm ready to have fun, but I gotta wait for you to like have a drink and like get to the point where like
we talked about this at one point when we met because we've known each other for acquaintance wise for like over 10 years, but we've only really gotten to know each other more closely over the past year and a half. And when we met recently one time, like, he's confident on a level that I can't wait to reach, where he'll get up, like I said, I'll go do karaoke, I'll sing my ass off, I'll sing some Linkin Park, I'll rap or whatever, but I need at least a drink or two in me. Right. This dude will get up there completely sober and turn down drinks. He knows how to have fun just as himself. It's actually admirable. Like,
thanks, man.
But
but that's the thing when it comes to holiday parties, that I'm always like for me, like karaoke, video games, party games, conversation, like all these things that's like social connective tissue for me. Like that's how I connect to people in the room. Like I think, like I've always considered like karaoke like a super intimate thing, because like in 2 seconds you're getting to know something really personal about a person, which is the kind of music that they personally connect to. Like you're showing that to a group of people who don't know you, like, and immediately, like, there's no other situation really where like you just walk into a room and show everyone something that means something to you.
And on
And so
that same level, though, there's an insecurity there. Fucking, I wanted to ask you this because I'm bragging about you for it. What is it about you that insecurity that most other people feel? And I'm saying, even me, I feel like I'm braver than most to get on stage and sing with as few drinks as it takes me. How did you get to the point where you got past that insecure? Was it therapy? You've talked about therapy, or
I
have
mean,
you always been that way?
I mean, I think it's definitely there's been a piece of it there always, but therapy and all that stuff is definitely because it's all about refining the relationship you have with yourself. And I think that that's one thing that just in observing people that I interact with, a lot of people completely neglect what I call the third person self relationship, where like you are an actual individual that you have a conscious relationship with yourself in terms of like a third person type deal where you like for me I look at myself the same way I look at my mother and my sister and my father. Like I see all four people in the family as
Mm.
individual people. So I'm one of the people who I care about. I'm one of the people who I encourage. I'm one of the people who I give a shit what happens to me. I'm also the person piloting the ship, but I also see myself as like a separate person as well.
This may be a little tangent, but I'm curious what your answer is, and I apologize for
No, you're
interrupting
fine.
you there. But I want to hear from Robert and Joe because I'm going to ask you this very, very plainly. Do you genuinely love yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, 100%, absolutely.
And see that answers a lot to why you're able to do what you do. Robert and Joe, can you genuinely also both say that about yourselves? Do
Yeah,
you genuinely both love yourselves?
I love myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking, I think I'm the best.
Yeah, man. That's
What
yeah.
I'm looking for that real right on the spot answer. Robert, what's your answer?
I don't feel the same way. I
Mhm.
aggravate
Hey,
myself.
you get. I got a feeling me and you might be a little bit more closely aligned then. Good. What?
There's a lot of things about myself I wish I could change.
And do you acknowledge that comes from your experiences? Like your experiences have conditioned that relationship out of you.
Uh,
Or
yeah.
do you think that's just kind of how you are?
I mean, I think it's definitely a bit of both, but I would say I lean more towards just who I am,
Mm-hmm.
which makes some of those things just really difficult to like break out of, or just things like I don't know, like I could never really say that I felt satisfied with myself. It's more that I just know that it's just what am I going to do? It's
Mm-hmm.
more of like, well, you
Stuck with
just
yourself.
right, yeah, exactly. I'm just stuck with who I am. I'm stuck with all those things, and I know that sounds depressing, but it's like
Well,
I
Yeah.
it just sounds interesting to me. Like I don't really judge it, when in terms of like negative, positive. It's just an interesting difference. Like I think that with people, because it's all I always look at it. The reason why I stress the third person thing so much is just because I always see people struggle with how they relate to other people versus how they relate to themselves. So like a person who
yeah,
would just be like, you know, like I know what my you were using the example of karaoke, right? Like I know what my singing voice sounds like because I listen to it.
Which is
mhm.
And
probably why you rap a lot.
and I and
Just regular.
fuck you. But I judge it in the same like spectrum that I judge someone else that I would hear on stage singing. Like it's just another voice that I'm familiar with. It's not like,
Sure.
but you have other people who will say like, if I sounded like that, I would judge it more harshly than when I hear another person sounding like that. I'm more hard on myself than I am other people. And then
Yeah.
you're like, well, where did that come from? Who taught you to be that way? And a lot of times it'll be like, well, I had parents who spoke to me a certain way. My boss, my string of bosses that I've had, I've kind of been repeating this pattern of experiences that have conditioned my brain to think, oh, you deserve less than you think other people deserve. You know, like you don't, your girlfriends are, speaking to like a woman, like your girlfriends all deserve to have, men who care about them and take care of them. But, you kind of like you ended up with the guy who beat you, but that's I mean you ended up with somebody, right? Like you would tell your
Right.
girlfriend you deserve better, but you don't deserve better. Like that kind of thing is
Yeah.
just like when you see yourself looking at other people and treating them and having more compassion for them than you have for yourself, I do think it's worth looking at and looking into why that is. Um, but yeah, but I think a lot of it is formative, and which is why like me and my
Yeah.
son, whenever we're on the phone, we end all our phone calls with "I love you, I love myself, I'll talk to you later." You know, that's kind of like it's. I want it to be so repetitive that by the time he gets to be of more conscious age, he doesn't even second guess having a good relationship with himself. Like it's
I
just
literally want you to direct and produce the next fucking Black American sitcom, by the way, on parenting. No, I'm messing with you, but the reason why I asked that, and Robert, I'll to Joe and Dev, I think both your answers were spot on and honest and truthful, and especially with me knowing what I've gotten to know about both of you, Joe, uh, your level of confidence. Like I hated you at first because of how secure in yourself you fucking were, and it annoyed the shit out of me, honestly. And we butted heads for quite a while before I got to really understand you on a level where now I appreciate and think you're a great dude. Dev, same. Well, I wouldn't say same goes for you. We never really butted heads, but there was a bit of a barrier that we never really connected on a deeper level for me to understand more about you. And again, your answer I felt was very genuine and not surprising. Robert, not surprisingly, I feel like maybe we're on the same page. I'll be honest with y'all. I asked that question because my answer is hell no, I don't love myself, and I haven't for a long time. As a matter of fact, there's probably for as many enemies as I have, and as many I won't call them enemies. I don't mean like I got haters who are out to get me or anything, but I mean for as
that you
many
know of.
people. Well,
Mhm.
they haven't shown up. um, but for as many people as I think have justified reasons to dislike me or have anger and resentment in their hearts towards me, they'll never know that they aren't coming close to the level of, you know, lack of love or hate or self-loathing that I have towards myself. And it's a work in progress, and I won't lie, I'm not even close to past it. I struggle with it every day. It's funny because the karaoke thing kind of prompted that question, because I do feel like part of the ability that you've always had, maybe to just get up on stage and be who you are, comes from an ingrained sense of self-love, maybe. And I think my ability to get up on stage is more from a level of stubborn fucking I'm gonna keep pushing forward despite the hate that I have for myself, that I taught
Mhm.
myself to present a level of confidence that I don't truly have. I'll
Mhm.
get on stage for karaoke and I'll sing and I'll be the most confident motherfucker that you'll see up there singing Linkin Park. I got a whole playlist and all of that, but then I'll come home at the end of the night and I'll spend 3 hours or 3 weeks thinking about every syllable that came out of my mouth, every
Damn.
movement I made, every eye roll I got, everything, and judging myself in such a harsh way. And I pushed
And you
past.
would never like you would never do that to me.
Oh, absolutely not.
That's
Absolutely
so
not. I wish I
interesting.
could spend 10% of my energy in my thinking about what anybody else did but myself. Fucking, I'll rewatch this episode after we're done watching it, and I'm gonna stare at my screen the whole time, judging my voice, my answers, my questions,
Mhm.
the entire time before I even fucking pay attention to anybody else. And that's not like a narcissistic or
No,
self-centered
yeah.
thing. It's
No,
more of
it's
a, oh my
No.
god, I sounded so stupid.
yeah.
Why are you doing
I
this?
can
Yada yada
totally
yada.
relate to that.
Mhm.
I do the same thing. I mean,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
my biggest problem is that I am an intense introvert that masquerades as an extrovert
Mhm.
and has
Yep,
learned to play the act of an
yep.
extrovert.
I wrote a story wearing the mask. I'm wearing a mask most of the time.
I've just learned how to do it,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
see,
I
I
get it
used to
done.
be the opposite. Like I used to
What do
be
you
the
mean?
opposite of that. Like I have come to learn that I am extrovert that used to pretend to be an introvert,
Mm.
and that's mostly because um I'm very different. Um, like I don't I don't like sports. I'm big
It's
in
so wild how we sound the same to each other and y'all sound the same to each other. That's so
I will say
interesting.
I'm with y'all. I think Robert is as well too. Like I can't stand. Did you
Go
see the game
sports.
last night?
Yeah.
Fucking leave me alone
No, I did
on a
not.
Monday morning. Did I come up and
Go
ask you
sports.
about the fucking YouTube trends last night? Fucking shut up about sports. But I think we're
yeah
actually
like
on.
Yeah.
yeah
You
like I don't
continue,
like
man.
sports. If you guys haven't noticed, when I was in my other room, my back wall's full of like horror horror type photo pictures and stuff. I'm a big horror fan, which a lot of people could be off putted by that.
Mhm.
I have a very dark sense of humor. Um, I also I like to be a contrarian, and I would like before I used to be so out of place that I would just be like, "Oh, I don't want to be around people. I'm a very introverted personality type." And then I have learned to like I told John about maybe 2 months ago when we had a talk, a guys' night out talk, and I was like, I just
Before I
learned to
started
stop.
recording them, yeah.
Yeah, before you start recording, and I was like, I just learned to stop giving a fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not
I
saying
remember
stop
that
giving.
conversation because we had a whole conversation about, well, when does that go too far? How
Mhm.
do you actually do it? Yeah,
Yeah, like I just stopped giving a fuck, and not in a sense of like, oh, I just stopped caring. I let myself go. I became a slob and shit like that.
Mhm.
I'm still, but like I got no problem. Hey man, you watch the game? Nah, I don't fucking care about. I don't care about
Right.
sports.
You stop being held back by the anticipation
Yeah,
of the world rejecting you.
yeah. What hobbies you like? Oh, I like to fucking sit around and binge horror movies all day eating some popcorn. I enjoy that. I have no problem. Like there's a streaming service called Shutter. They cater to horror movies. I have it. It's cheap, $60 a year. I pay it. I have no problem taking a day off, sitting on my couch, and watching 4 or 5 movies in a row, and that's a fucking blast for me. And then I tell it, but I used to be like shy and embarrassed of it, like, oh, I'm be judged, and I'm like, I don't fucking care.
see,
I
but
stopped caring.
this actually goes back to the topic that started this all, which is the company holiday parties, because one of the things, and you gentlemen for the most part have seen kind of what I've been trying to do, grow and learn, and learn to stop hating myself over the last year and a half that I've been doing. This is all kind of part of it. Is learning, to be myself and actually appreciate myself. But you can't appreciate yourself and love yourself until you discover yourself, right? And so I'm trying to discover myself so I can love myself. Company holiday parties, which we've all experienced and we talked about, that's what kind of brought this up, because last week, where I was talking about it being exhausting, it was fun, it was free drinks, it was travel, it was this and that. But I also remember, like, one of the journeys that I went on this year was learning to give less of a fuck, to be more like you, Joe, to not give a fuck. But that runs into a wall sometimes when you're, trying to keep a roof over your head or trying to be successful
Yeah,
in a corporate environment. And so that's where that exhaustion came in last week, was trying to strike this balance between I'm going to be me and, oh, hey, maybe this is one of those, situations where be a little less and like sometimes, like, if you I found myself, and I find myself in those situations, sometimes regretting not being more of me, and also sometimes regretting being too much of the real me. Like the real me, Joe, me and you grew up in the same area. Like I'm hood, I'm from Patterson. Like the real me, the core me, the childhood me, like you say certain shit, like it might pop off. But I can't have a fucking successful career and keep a roof over my head and keep my kids,
yeah,
fed by being that version of me all the time,
Mhm.
which was a bad, which is why I always had a problem with that whole like I'ma always be me, I'ma always be real. I had an uncle like that. I've talked to you, Joe, I think privately about it, and I've mentioned him on some of my videos, where he was like that to the extreme though. And it's like there's a certain point where like being you 100% of the time it might mean you end up being nothing if you can't put a lid on some shit, right? And finding that balance can be tough
Well, and
without feeling like you're like stuffing yourself down the real you.
I really think so much of it is not necessarily the being you, not being you. It's just like what is your dynamic for emotional management? Like how much stress do you incur by not expressing how you feel in moments to moments because you're essentially letting the environment dictate whether or not you're in touch with your emotions or not, and that creates internal stress. The reaction to that internal stress can come out in behavior that is more aggressive and more, you're really just internally irritated, because your genuine emotions don't have an outlet. And that's why I like so much what Joe was just talking about with the, instead of trying to fumble your way through the conversation about sports or change the subject or whatever, he's like, no, I would like to binge some horror movies today. And he's saying that regardless of what, it's not just that he feels that, it's that he's expressing it in a way that doesn't keep it stuffed inside of him, so it doesn't build up that tension. And it's like every time you're disconnected from your feelings, like what's going on inside you, like you build up stress. um and so what I feel compassion for from the way you're describing your self relationship is I think you're incurring stress from the internal eval that's going on, where
Definitely.
you have ingested some type of negative messages about who you are, and now that shit runs on automation inside your mind. So
Oh yeah.
now it's like you fucking picked up that pen and wrote on that page like a fucking idiot. Like just like you're getting harsh critiques for like the most mundane thing because that system has become so automated, and that is keeping you out of touch with just like what you're feeling like right now, like being present in the moment. You're distracted from that because of that negative internal voice.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. And this is one of the issues that I know me and you have discussed when that I've run into with therapy. There's a difference between insight and like, all right, now future action,
Mhm.
right?
Like what do I
And
do about it?
so what the fuck do you do about it, right? When you don't have that self-love, that internal validation, when you are seeking you what you just described that happened. Like I remember going through my mind about a small interaction that happened at the holiday party,
Mhm.
and beating myself up and running through it in my head about the negatives. And then I got a message just uh the following Monday, this last Monday, from that same person who I thought hated me, and I had this whole narrative in my head,
Great seeing
talking
you at the
about how
holiday party.
intelligent I
Had a
was
good.
and praising me and all this other shit. So again, this is where that problem comes in. And I think that this is a problem for messaging. Me and you've talked about this, Dev,
Mhm.
and me and you, Joe, as well. Um, okay, it's nice that I'm insightful. Now, what the fuck do we do
Right.
about it?
How
Like,
do you
how do
develop
we?
self compassion?
Yeah,
Um,
because it's great if you've always had it, and it sucks if you haven't. So
well,
how the
that's the
fuck
thing.
do we bridge that
I
gap?
that's a good question because like I don't think anyone has actually set me down and said, "Here's how you develop it." But I know I can see, I can feel that I have developed it throughout this process, over the past 7 years of the different types of therapy that I've been in. I think I got a lot of self compassion. It started with the anger management course. That was the first kind of quick summary backstory I had in my previous marriage. One night during a fight, I was physically violent with my ex-wife, and I hit her with an object, and I was continually hitting her with this object and I was kind of reenacting. My body was in like autopilot, and I was reenacting family physical fights that I'd had when I was a kid. But it would typically be me and other family members like get into like a physical scuffle. You kind of, you know, tussle for a little bit, then you separate, and it's kind of you forget about it afterwards. And I was hitting her, and then a few seconds into it, I realized like I was just hitting her, she wasn't hitting me back, and I like dropped the thing that I was hitting her with, and I was kind of mortified in my own behavior, and I ran, you know, full steam into therapy after that because I wanted to understand like where the hell that behavior came from and really dismantle it and dissect it and all that. But the first stop on that train was anger management. And I sat in a room full of 11 other men who were struggling with anger from all different walks of life. And I saw the commonality in the emotional management struggle that each of us was having, even though we led completely different lives and completely different scenarios. And I just saw that common thread that gave me compassion for the other people who were going through it, and seeing that struggle in so many other people who were nothing like me and came from completely different backgrounds gave me more compassion for myself. And that was the first time I remember really having that kind of like you have collectively been given something that has hurt you all, and seeing that in other people. Like I also had to see, I had to trace that back to like, you know, we all have some hurt little kid, you know, we're all the ages that we've ever been. So that hurt little kid is still inside of us. And I just got to know that kid a lot more, where I just kind of pushed him down for so long and forgotten about him. And so I think that that might be the start for you, is really thinking back to, I mean, you've told us about a lot of the stuff that you've experienced growing up, um, and just kind of doubling back and babysitting that kid that's still inside of you sometimes, and just sitting down with him and talking to him and telling him like, you didn't deserve this shit that happened to you, and I would care for you the same as I would care for any other kid that I saw who was going through the same thing. You know,
Yeah.
like having those internal talks can dismantle a lot of that shit. It's just a matter of like
Yeah.
really sitting down and doing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it. I mean, for me personally, I wrote one of the first steps I took, at the beginning of my, year and a half long journey or whatever, was literally I wrote a letter from, it's called A Letter from Father to Son, and it's from me to me.
You.
And at the end of the story, and it seems like it's just a letter from a father to son, and then at the end of the story, the point is that I'm talking to me. I'm finally being my own father and saying, hey, it's okay, I'll love you, I'll protect you, and this and that. So I'm taking the steps now. I was just curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah,
Rob
that's
or
my
Joe, you
opinion.
guys got any follow-up thoughts on all that?
Um.
I think
So,
Rob is keeping an eye out for that fucking bug.
He's on watch.
We're never
What
gonna let that
it got
go.
the, okay, fair enough, fair enough. Dude, I'm gonna, not only am I not gonna let that go, I'm gonna clip that little shimmy that you did, and it's going on YouTube Shorts.
Fine.
The
You
way
know
you
what?
move, it was so much better than this thing. Oh man.
You know,
yeah. So,
I deserve it. It's fine.
What's up? Go ahead, Joe.
no, like one of the things I have done so um back back when I was younger, um I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Hmm.
Um Now I had that diagnosis, never done anything with it. But then I started noticing I started having just issues in my life. And I went back to therapy, and again, it got brought up and they're like, yeah, borderline personality disorder, blah 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 blah. What I did was I read up on it, and I started to learn about myself and this disorder. And one of the things that I worked for me, and I know it's probably not going to be for everybody, but what works for me is when I started having issues where I'm like, whoa, no, this is not real. This is not, what's this is all part of my disorder.
Mhm.
This is I'm interpreting this wrong. I'm viewing this from a wrong lens. My headspace is not in the right spot, and I bring myself back to reality by understanding what was wrong. You know that it's it's hard for me to explain, but like I could like I could notice that, like, whoa, this is not this is not really this is in my head.
Mhm.
I'm viewing, there's this argument I'm having with my wife. I'm viewing it in a way that shouldn't be viewed in, because of my problem. Let me come back to reality, and doing that over the years, I have really um kind of really adjusted myself, because I catch myself. And even now, like Stu, I catch myself, and my wife has a good understanding about what's going on. And there are times where she will even tell me, be like, she was like, you're just getting in your head again. You need to come back to
Mhm.
reality. You're getting in your head.
It's very helpful to have a partner who actually understands
Mhm.
what those kind of things
So,
are like.
but you have a routine of personal grounding exercises that you know how to do.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, like
Horror
I
movies.
yeah, yeah, watch a good horror movie, be like, yep, I feel good. You get helps with the rage too.
Mhm.
Especially you watch
Yeah,
something, if you could stomach something brutal and you have rage problems like you were talking about, it could help with
yeah.
that. Like you could what's that word? Um I can't think of that word right now. But yeah, you could just kind of like visualize it, like, oh man, that seeing that kill really got me,
Got it out of
got
you.
some
Is
stress
it
off
like
me.
externalizing, getting it outside of yourself instead of inside? Maybe
Yeah, like yeah,
Uh,
like it's just it's good. Like that's one thing. Like a lot of horror fans, people are into horror movies, especially horror movies, because it's visual over, like, if you read like horror books.
Mhm.
Um, it's a big de-stressor. You can watch a movie stressed out, angered, and you watch something and it kind of mellows you out. But again, you got
yeah.
to be able to stomach it. If you can't stomach it, if it turns
I
you
could
off,
see why the extreme nature too might really help too. Where just like it's like, oh, I could, maybe I should try just watching some fucking horror movies where I could be like, all right, well, at least I'm not getting my leg chopped off. Like, as bad as I thought that conversation was, I don't have to dig in my own eye socket for the key to unlock
Right.
this unlock this jigsaw puzzle or whatever. Robert, buddy, I'm curious before I move on. That I know I got a little deep there, but I'm curious before I move on if you had any thoughts on the whole topic.
Well, let's just do it. We've been so many places. What was the original question?
Right.
Yeah, I think the last part was the self love and where it comes from at its core. I think me and you were more on the same
Oh,
page as
okay.
far as
Okay. Yeah,
you
you're
know,
right. Yeah, yeah.
kind of less of a self assured nature.
Yeah. So I, you know, I'm one of those people that has not gone to therapy. I mean, I have in my life
Mhm.
as a teenager, but like I'm in desperate need of therapy actually right now. Um, and really the only reason that I haven't at the moment is purely a financial situation. That
Mhm.
things got tight towards the end of the year. But I'll try and work that out first of the year. Actually, I'm not going to try. I'm going to first of the year.
Mhm.
Good
Um,
man. We're gonna
but
follow up on an episode.
but it- I don't know where a lot of it comes from, to be honest. I think not to get too stereotypically therapy, but I mean, I think it has a lot to do. If I go back to my dad, he was always kind of the disapproving father, or the
Mhm.
nothing is ever quite good enough kind of father. So I think I've just conditioned myself to never think anything is good enough. So
Mhm.
I'm always just kind of chasing things that aren't real.
Is
And so I'm like,
is his voice the voice that is the negative voice in your head when you critique yourself?
no,
No, it's literally you've adopted it completely.
yeah, yeah. Like I don't. It's not like I do this. This is your fault. Like it's just
Mhm.
it's just become my
It's like
personality. But
it's
I
kind of like
think,
of course it's not good enough.
yeah, yeah. It's like I'm always, so I'm a huge pessimist, mainly because I'm so used to things that I do just fucking up or falling apart or never materializing, then I never expect anything to work. So,
Mm.
um, I'm
Do
always
you
excited
think
when,
any of your social media and YouTube pursuits have something to do with that or stem from that at all?
I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, it's easy to think, you know, there are two things in this life that I've wanted to do since I was very young. Okay. One was be a commercial airline pilot, and the other was, and I didn't have a word for it at the time, but to basically be like a vlogger for
Mm,
travel. Like
Mhm.
I was saying, I don't know if I said on the last thing or if I said on the live that I was on, I was a kid when video cameras weren't really a thing, that I had a video camera and I was
mhm,
Mhm.
documenting my life and having no idea what that was. Like I've been doing this since I was a child. I vlog
Mhm.
with a VHS camera. Okay. Like that's how deep this runs in me. It's almost like a compulsion that like I have to do that kind of thing. But like for some reason I talk myself out of going to flight school and it literally haunts me and keeps me up at night. And YouTube and all those things was going really well for a long time. And then it stopped because of COVID and it just hasn't really worked ever
Yeah.
since. So like the overwhelming sense of failure, like constantly. And I think that's probably why it's been so bad lately, because that was actually, so I guess to bring you guys up to speed, I did my first international travel and food vlog in the Philippines back in like
Fucking go
two
check it
months.
out. I will share it in the description in the comments, dude.
I appreciate it.
I
Yeah, put it up.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but
Oh, yeah.
you've been an inspiration to me for years when it comes to the quality and effort and fucking time and
If
patience
only
that you put
someone saw
into
it.
what you create. And I'm gonna get to that, but I did want to go
Yeah.
ahead and shout that out. Please
But
please check his
yeah,
shit out. Yeah.
it's been like it's been eating me alive. And it's the kind of thing where it's such a weird aspiration for someone to have. It's like I want to be a movie star. You know what I mean? Like it's I feel like people react to it that way, that like I get really self-conscious about how I approach it, like how I feel about it publicly or even at home, because I feel like nobody really gets like how I feel about it or how
your connection
serious
to
it
it.
is for me.
Yeah.
And it's
And you
like I know,
don't I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but you're speaking like I feel like you're speaking for me in a lot of ways, and like there's this self-consciousness about the negative. Like anybody who does these kind of creative endeavors obviously doesn't want to be shouting into a void, right? Like we're
right,
creating things and sharing it with the intention of there being somebody out there who wants to, participate, watch, consume, whatever. But especially in modern society and with the conversations right now, there's also this aversion to like coming off as narcissistic or self-centered or self-indulgent. And I'll tell you, I asked the question about whether or not some of what you have faced plays into your YouTube creations, because
well,
it
well,
absolutely
actually,
has for
that's
me.
that's exactly where I was headed. So, um, I made a post on my personal Facebook page, and it was a clip from a video that I hadn't posted yet because I've just lost all drive or desire to do it because it's all been so depressing. But I was like, I want you to look at this and look at how I look on this video. And like, it's the first time that like I really was like watching the video, like watching the footage to just watch it. And like I was looking at myself and thinking, that is me being completely and totally happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy and I'm 100% Robert.
Mm-hmm.
I'm me. Like that is, it's like this rare occasion of 100% me and 100% happy. I'm in the place that I wanted to be with the people I wanted to be with, and I have a smile ear to ear. There's some weird Philippines ethnic shit going on right next to me while I'm in the back of a tricycle taxi. Like, it's the dream. Like it's the
You
dream.
should see their laundry mats on their fucking rooftops, by the way, in one of his
Oh yeah,
videos.
that's ridiculous. But like it's literally the dream. And I'm looking at myself literally like I'm watching from the outside and feeling so disconnected from that motherfucker on that screen.
Mhm.
But it's me. And like it's fucked with me ever since I came back from there.
Mhm.
Like I've not been right since going and filming that. Like I've been like when I'm talking about like desperately needing therapy, like
Mhm.
after coming from that, like I need to talk to
You want
somebody
to process it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
because
completely
it
get
was
it.
too much. Like I haven't seen myself look like that. Like I don't remember.
Yeah, no,
I
And go ahead, Dev.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I completely connect to what you're talking about, and what you're describing is just so universal and something that every human being needs. And this kind of rat race of earn fucking rent money and earn money to just exist. Like you can't sit in the dwelling that you're in if you don't earn enough money to pay every month to fucking be there. um that rat race disc is just, it just disconnects us from that person that you saw in that video.
yeah,
It's so hard to you're constantly fighting to like get back, just get a glimpse of that person.
right.
um
It's to the point where now it literally feels like a dream.
mhm,
Like it doesn't feel like I was ever there. Like
yeah,
it literally feels like I had a dream and pieces of it are just like fading
yeah.
like a dream.
Mhm.
And
And like
I think that's something that I have tried to, I don't know if I've mastered it, but I've definitely gotten some insight into it over the years about how, like, I see what you describe when I watch like a video of myself doing karaoke, or when I have like a great moment in a game I'm playing or something. um or I'm in my photography studio, like crafting something. And so like I figured out that it wasn't one thing that was doing it. It's something about certain situations that trigger it. And so I just, like, every time I identified a different scenario that did it, I just added that to the archive and was just like, okay, that's something you need to engage in with some type of regularity.
right,
There needs to be some type of frequency to you pulling yourself back to whatever gives you that joy. And you need to look at that the same way you look at food. You need to look at that the same way you look at surely fucking work. If nothing else, it needs to be above work. Um,
right.
you were not fucking put here to just run on a damn hamster wheel and
So
kick
let
out rent
me
money every month.
let me ask you, because what you just said, Dev, really relates to my perspective on why I asked you that question, Robert. Which is, again, for Joe and Dev, like, and Robert, so you know, like, me and Joe and Dev met years and years and years ago, over 10 years ago at this point, through video games on Facebook, just a Facebook group. We all listen to a podcast, and we've been, internet, acquaintances turned
Mhm.
friends over the years. I met Robert back when I was doing my first YouTube experiment with YouTube, which was a cooking show that I had with my youngest daughter, the one who came and peeked her head in earlier. It was Ariana's house, and I had this idea that I wanted to be on camera and I wanted to show her off because she's such a little superstar. And I just had the idea of, well, what if you remember those tasty videos that used to come up in
Mhm.
in the timeline and stuff,
A
with cool
recipe, like,
recipes,
yeah.
little
Mhm.
30-second, 1 minute, and we would just like do a show where we made the recipe. And
Uh-huh.
at the end of the day, that ended up falling off because it was a lot of effort, and I really didn't have a passion for cooking. Like, to this day, I'm probably going to go heat up a microwave burrito after our show. Like, I don't really care about cooking. I just wanted to, I'll be honest, I wanted to present, I wanted to be on video. There was something about sharing myself and presenting that I really, really loved. And I got to share it with her, and it was a great experience. I'm not putting, saying it was a negative experience, but ended up stopping it. A lot of why I ended up stopping it and stopping for a while was because of a lot of self-judgment towards myself for even pursuing it in the first place. Like, it felt ridiculous in my own head. But I decided to go for it. And then a few years later, I had a craft beer show. And again, like I was experimenting with just this, like YouTube and creation and speaking and sharing me. And this is another kind of go around of the same intention. I will be honest, this experience has lasted longer than either of the previous two, because I feel like I finally found a balance of me not having to pretend to be something that I'm not, and also getting the satisfaction that I had. But Robert, the reason why I asked you that question specifically is because of how I felt about myself and my own self doubts and my own, assuredness in myself and self love. Um, where even now, like even today, like I beat myself up about even wanting to share this, like about even sharing this, about putting it on YouTube, about recording this right now, because again, there is this, stigma about, being narcissistic and being self-indulgent
Attention seeker.
and attention seeker and things of that nature. But I'll tell you, I'm still doing it because I do love it. I do love it. I love it. I love, for the first time in my life since before I could ever remember, into adulthood, just sharing myself and not being afraid to speak, not being afraid to speak my mind, not being afraid to share a piece of me creatively and all of that. But at the same time, where I still run into issues is I really do want it. And I actually came to this realization earlier, and I'm still kind of wrestling with it, that I feel like I'm driven to say, oh, I'm just doing this for fun. And if, nothing comes of it or whatever, I shouldn't care, because society says I shouldn't care and I should be self assured. No, here's the truth. I'll be real with y'all and whoever the fuck else watches this. I want to be heard. I want to be loved. I want to be liked. I want to be felt. I want to feel validated. I want to feel like I matter. I want to feel like I have an impact. Um, I'm still wrestling with how to balance that and not feel like a complete fucking narcissist or completely lose any
I feel
self
like you
assuredness.
just have to
So
What'd you say, Robert?
well, and I know with you, Robert, you have leaned into it a lot more than I have. You're an inspiration for me,
I
where
stopped caring. I really stopped caring.
yeah.
Like
But
I'm like,
okay, I'm sorry.
well, I was saying, like I just was like, who cares? Like, Macon is a relatively small town, so like, you don't get away with doing something like that, and people around you not knowing. So there's kind of an embarrassment factor there, and like the people talking literally like this behind your blind, like and stuff like that. And I just kind of stopped caring. But anyway, what were you about to say?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, the interesting thing about that third person filter that I'm encouraging, like, everyone to put over their self analysis, is when you contemplate what Robert was just talking about, right? When he talks about how he felt about the version of himself that he saw in the travel video. How did you feel about him when he was talking about that?
I felt him on a level where I know he was looking at himself in a way that I do similarly.
But no, no. How
Where
did you feel? How did you feel about him while he was talking about it? What feelings did you feel toward him?
inspired, honestly. Like I love that he put it out there, that he was the the kind of positive emotions that he got from watching himself. I'll be honest, before we started recording tonight, I watched the last episode.
Mhm.
And I felt the same. I loved watching it. I loved what I was doing. It was the best version of me. And so I felt like it was the best version of me when I was watching it earlier, which felt weird to sit there and watch a podcast that I was fucking
But what
hosting.
what did you feel toward him?
Hmm. I I guess I would say connection or understanding, would be the best way.
Or I guess I should ask it a different way. What did you feel about him while, like, when he was describing, and then I'll answer it for myself, right? Like, so
yeah, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Sorry.
Yeah. When Robert was saying, I got a glimpse of this version of myself that I saw and I could see was pure, unadulterated happiness. Like, I felt connection toward him. Like, I felt like I wanted that for him. I wanted you to have that experience all the time. Like, I felt like celebratory of you and having that moment.
Yep.
And the reason why I asked you how you felt about him in that moment is because I want you to compare that to how you feel about yourself in a similar moment. Because you described,
I think maybe that's why I had a hard time answering your question, is because I was relating it too much back to myself. I was like, so yeah, I did feel the same feelings for him, like happiness towards him, and for how he felt, and like as a friend, like, man, that's great that he felt like that. But then automatically it also went to, well, shit, I wish I felt like that sometimes.
And see, and I felt, and that's why I was asking the question that way, because I felt like I'm like everyone, all the other guys on this call probably felt the same thing I was feeling when I was hearing them talk about it, right? So, like, I'm thinking, if you're feeling that, are you giving yourself time to feel it, or are you immediately moving from it and going into, let me critique myself? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not even present.
That's absolutely what I was doing.
Yeah, and so, like,
well, that's the catch-22. So it's like there's a lot of nuance to this whole thing, but it's kind of like, okay, I love food. I love new and interesting food. That's why I record it for the internet, right? But the opposite side of that is that I never get to have any of the food that I'm so interested in while it's still at its best, because I'm spending so much time filming it and making sure that it looks good on camera that I don't get to just enjoy it and be in the moment, because I have a video to do. So the catch,
which is part of why I'm kind of glad you're on the show too, because I don't feel like you've shared a lot of just off, completely raw, unfiltered, unedited, which is what this whole show is about.
Because I feel like if I start actually talking about me, it's just really depressing. Like, it's just really depressing. Like, I think if I just started going down the list, and it would probably shock you, John. I just, like, to be honest, I thought your answer to Devlin, right? Devlin. Okay, I just want to make sure I put some respect
by
on
the
your
way,
name.
he him.
Well, anyway, your answer, I would have thought you would have been surprised that I would have said any of that. I thought your reaction would have been surprised
about the how you felt seeing your happy version in the video. You thought I would be surprised by that?
How it makes me feel now, like, because to me it's a net negative. Like, I was happy about it, but ultimately the overall feelings that I get from it are negative, because I'm looking at myself like, wow, I wish I could get a little bit more of that on a daily basis.
And you almost feel like you wish you didn't care about being that happy about it. I'll be honest, when I saw 32 views on our last fucking podcast, I was like, oh, that made me happy. And then immediately 5 minutes later, I was like, well, shit, I wish I had 62 views.
Right. Go ahead, Joe.
So like hearing that, like, like I said earlier, I love myself. I'm very happy with myself. I'm pretty, content with how my life is, and yeah, there's always room for improvement, and my life could be better, but it could also be far worse. But hearing you talk about that experience you had, like, I can't sit down and talk about an experience with that same kind of happiness. So, like, instead of feeling down, like, oh, I wish it could be more, you should pursue it. And realize, oh man, I really had this great experience. And instead of feeling down because you're not constantly having it,
Right.
you should build on that happiness, because a lot of people just never got.
Don't even have it. Yeah.
Well,
don't have something to be happy about. Don't have something to be passionate
and I think
about.
we're talking about two different things too. Where, like, I think that what I'm describing with the third person relationship is you learn to be more valuable to yourself before performance, right? Because there's a level of value that you give inherently to other people because you've been conditioned to, that you don't require people to perform before you show them respect. Like it wouldn't be like if a dude was walking down the street and you saw him trip and fall on the ground, you would be like, well, he hasn't done any cool shit yet, so I'm not gonna help him up. Like you would see another person fall and you would just instinctively go to help him up because you're just like,
I don't know. I'm from Jersey. I might be like, ah! No,
but you know what I mean? Like you would feel that reflex to just be like, oh, I see somebody who just fell.
The thing where it's like, oh, what are you gonna do? What is this?
Right. But you want them to be okay.
Right.
And it's just like that. I guess I'm just pushing for like feeling that concern and that basic care for yourself will allow you to be present more in those moments when you're experiencing. So like you would be connected to when you were in that moment the same way you were when you watched it back on video.
Right.
You would be more present for it when you have like a basic level of like, I'm already valuable to myself before I perform my way into that space. And I think that's just a matter of perspective. Like that doesn't have anything to do with what you're actually doing. You don't need to get, the job or the promotion or the girlfriend or the whatever to get to that space. None of that. If you're trying to achieve your way there, like it's never going to happen. Like there's nothing that you're going to be able to do that's going to be able to produce the value that you're seeking. Right. It's more about like questioning, okay, well, why do I feel so much more compassion for him than I feel for myself? And then whatever the answers that come to that, like dismantling those and really processing in a real way. Which is why I respect so much what you were talking about earlier, Robert, where it's just like I'm in deep need of therapy is one of the fucking, that's like the realest shit I've heard from like anybody in a while, where I'm just like, yes, thank you for not stuffing that down.
Oh no, I need it
and pretending that you don't.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And
like
the thing is
I wish I had the confidence to be like, I don't fucking need therapy. I'm great the way I am. I fucking wish.
I don't even think that's confidence. I think that's false bravado.
Yeah, it's false bravado, whatever the fuck it is. I wish I had it because I'm like, no, I'm broke. I need help.
Like
need help, damn it.
we need other people and we need ourselves. And like any process that's going to steer us in that way is something we all need. Like it's not like that's why I just always think it's funny. I hate because I always want to tell people like you need therapy, but our culture has turned that into such a fucking diss where it's just like I don't mean that condescendingly when I say someone needs therapy because I actually fucking go to therapy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would I say that if I actually go to therapy?
Yeah, I think you opened my eyes on our interview. Really,
the average person who says that means it as an insult, right? Like you need fucking therapy.
Yeah.
Like
you need therapy. But yeah, it's a misconception, and that's what we talked about a lot on our interview was our understanding of what it means, what it can be, what it can do. And I remember there was a point in the conversation where you kind of presented a hypothetical to me, like, would you or would you not advise a person in A, B, C, D, or whatever situation to go to therapy? And I remember the point of what you were kind of presenting to me was we going back to the very beginning of our conversation, cost versus benefit. It's going to do nothing but potentially help anyone, right? No matter what your situation is.
Not gonna hurt
you. However self-assured or well-adjusted you are or think you are, going to therapy and getting perspective from that side of things is not going to do more harm than good. It's going to
you know what I really want the most from therapy is I just feel like I have a lot of shit to get off my chest.
Yeah, processing space.
Like, you just want to vent?
And yeah, I just want to vent. And I feel like a lot of it is not even like individual things are not even that serious, but it's just that it's so much. It's just so much for so long.
You're carrying a lot
because just carrying just so much, and I
So
just
I
feel
am
like
curious though, is it because just hearing some of the ways you've described your life, and again, Dev, to make sure I point this out, I am an advocate for therapy. You have evangelized me or proselytized me, whatever it's called. All right, I would not put down therapy, but is the venting is that necessarily a therapy only thing, or is what I advocate along with therapy, guys getting together expressing, like, I don't think you have that either though, Robert. Like, you don't just have a group of guys that you have some drinks with and you know fucking complain and bitch about shit.
not really, because my closest friends are all women. So, and just in general, I don't hang out with a lot of guys in general. Like I
Well,
would say I
welcome.
have one and a half like close guy friends. Like, yeah,
Not
I
a
really
half.
consider close. Well, the other one's new. He hasn't
Oh, okay.
he
I'm
hasn't
just curious
graduated.
how the fuck you qualify as a half, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's new. He's still in the vetting process, but
oh, okay, got it. He's
yeah, but
almost
like
there.
yeah,
Loading.
but like it it's the kind of thing where so let me preface this by saying I would never in a million years do self-harm. I am too much of a pussy. I will not do it. Like that is not on my head. Now, with that said, I think part of my worry about like talking to like my close friends is that I think if I just start saying these things that I feel that I would sound like a suicidal person
Mhm.
by any other
Yeah,
like if you
yeah,
didn't know any better.
Mhm.
yeah.
Because I think like a lot of my feelings are around feeling like a failure, feeling useless, feeling like why am I even here? Like all those different kinds of things that, the combination would normally be like, okay, well, you're going to need some closer attention, but it's not
Right.
like that. Like it's just a lot of stuff that I don't feel like I have within my friends and like normal
Like an
relationships that I
outlet.
don't have like they're not the right space for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I mean, my best friend, I call him my brother. Like, even shit that I've shared on the show, if I had shared privately, just me and him, just hanging out, like, he'd give me a fucking, and I love him. Like, it's not a negative to him, but you have relationships that are meant for, it's a relationship is its own relationship in a lot of ways. And
Right.
I know even my closest friend, I know he loves me. I could call him right now and be like, hey, I'm in Jersey, and he'd be like, I got a couch to sleep on. He don't give a fuck what his yeah, and I love his wife, but he wouldn't even give a fuck if what her opinion was. But if I had raised even some of the things we've talked about tonight, he'd give me an eye like, bro, what the fuck you talking about? Shut up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so you got certain relationships that are kind of, and that's why you're supposed
Yeah.
to have a
And then
range
it's
of
like
relationships.
okay, then it's like you have my wife who isn't just outstanding. But then I'm kind of like, well, I also don't want to concern her
Right.
with things that like are not her fault or not her like it's me like it's totally a separate thing, but how for me to go through that and feel the things I need to feel just to get them out, like how do I even do that without it affecting
Mhm.
Yeah.
her?
Not only
Certainly
should
not by
you
dumping
be,
it
are you
all on
concerned about it? I don't think you should. Like, I saw something the other day, and Dev, I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. But like, I think one of the things that I've run into with relationships that I've seen in modern relationships is like, I'm speaking from the male perspective, is women who like don't have girlfriends and like treat their boyfriend or their husband or significant other like their girlfriend. It's like, I don't,
Mhm.
like, go talk to your girlfriend about certain things, right? Like, you should have girlfriends for certain things. You should have, certain types of I don't know what your opinions are on that, Dev. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think.
can't have a relationship where my significant other like wants to talk to me and wants me to be everything and talk to me like a
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I think romantic partnerships of all all shades should not the friendship network should not lie exclusively on the romantic partner. in any context. Like that's one. There's too much. That's too much weight for one person to hold. No
Right.
one person should be any one spectrum of social connection outlet. And I don't care whether that's man woman, two woman couple, two man couple, whatever. There should be a you should have a social network of people outside of your romantic partner. I think the problem that a lot of men fall into is the frustration that you were describing, Robert, is something that I think a lot of men feel because so many men are poor communicators. Like they're just that it's just we have not been conditioned to be good communicators. We're not good listeners, and we don't validate a lot of just basic feeling communication that a person may be craving. And so a lot of men end up they either end up only knowing intimacy through romantic partnership, or they end up having a network of female friends because women are conditioned the other way. And so it just becomes this kind of struggle of like, if I do want male friendship, I have to compromise. I have to make like a big compromise and just say like, oh, we're not going to talk about certain shit, or we're not going to delve into certain spaces that are more emotionally true, just so we can say that we have, a group of guy friends like we want, because we
Yeah.
all want that. We all want that male connection too, but that can become difficult to find. Like that's one of my
Almost impossible, like naturally. Like
yeah.
shit.
You really have to fucking work at it, and that's one of. I mean, that's on my list of things that I want to work on in
Yeah.
2024. Is I want
You
to
know,
forge more
We
real.
are working on it
Yeah,
right
no,
now,
and
it's
gentlemen.
really
We just
yeah,
spent the
interesting.
last however many hours
absolutely,
talking about mental health and
absolutely.
shit. That's part of the mission here.
That's really interesting what you said about how making friends with women probably has a lot to do with that needing to be
Oh yeah,
heard.
oh yeah.
Um, th- that's yeah, that actually just unraveled. This is why I need to go to therapy really bad because it's just like you can pull one little thread and a bunch of stuff starts unraveling. But
Well,
yeah,
and
man, probably
that's where I would also like to advocate my well
You gonna talk about group therapy? I hope you do.
I was going to, but then I just caught myself, and
I love it. Like that was one of the biggest takeaways from me and you.
but
Our
I
interview.
wanted to be careful about recommending something that worked for me when someone has just clearly expressed something else that they need. And so like
I
because
think
you
you should recommend
specifically
it more because I think right now in society, like there's a misunderstanding on what therapy is, and you literally opened my eyes to. I was zeroed in on a stereotype of therapy that you completely changed my perspective
with the
on
laying on the
because if you're
couch.
well
well,
just
yeah, I had a very stereotypical view of
yeah,
therapy, and in our interview, if you go back and watch it, like he started talking. We butted heads a little bit, of very little friction, a very polite friction, but we butted heads a little bit, and then we came to find out the specific mode of therapy that has been very useful for him, and we came to understand that a lot of the things that I was talking about that men in particular could use in general that I've witnessed for myself and others, and how the benefits he's gotten from specifically group therapy
right.
have lined up with a lot of my concern, and it blew my mind to where I was like, oh shit, you're right.
Yeah, and what I think what happens is I think you should find an individual therapist who has a processing group, who like runs a group, and you should start with them individually and then evolve into going into the group. Because you so specifically said that you want a venting space, I think you should spend time doing one-on-one therapy where you can get a lot of that out. And then I think you should graduate into the group setting where you can bring the foundation that you've gotten with individual work into that space and be more feeling more comfortable, because if you go into a group setting with that I want to vent and be heard, you're going to suck all the oxygen out of the room, because group is not
Mm.
meant to be focused on one person. And you need to be able to hold space for other people and all that, which is something that you can do more easily once you've gotten the attention that you need individually. um, So I don't because I don't think
You're muted, Robert. It looked like you were trying to say something.
Yes,
Fucking
I
bug.
agree. That
Is the
that
bug
sounds
there?
about right.
yeah,
That
I
sounds
think.
Well,
about right.
But one thing I did want to point out to make sure you were aware of it, you may already be, and if you are, then that's cool. Um, but pretty much every town that I know of that has a university, which I would assume Macon does.
Several.
So what happens is there are therapy offices that are run that employ students who are training to be professional counselors. And while they're in school, they have requirement hours that they have to get in a real world therapist counseling setting.
Right.
And so they cycle through those offices and they offer therapy services at extreme discounts. I'm talking $5 to $15 a session. Um,
So my city actually has a free
there you
therapy thing, like
go.
a
Mhm.
therapy practice that they do. And it's actually run by a friend of mine.
Okay.
The only reason I haven't taken that up is because I need more sessions in a shorter amount of time
Uh
than they
huh.
offer by
Mm-hmm.
default. And I was kind of like, it didn't seem like a good idea to start one thing and then go to something else in the short
Right.
term.
And I was going to say
But
that's typically the drawback to the type of office that I was suggesting because that's where I started. And because those students are cycling in and out, you're going to start a relationship with therapists that's going to end
right.
eventually. So that's the only drawback.
but
But
you've
yeah,
never been to therapy, right?
Not as an adult, no.
no, yeah.
Oh,
I
fucking just
went
go
as a
for
teenager.
it. You don't have a comparison. Just go for it.
Well, no,
Like
it's
you can
it's
find
just
more
like
later.
it's probably I mean, it's probably irrational, but like I just know that it's just so much. And I know that that time in between that first session and that next session, I'm going to seethe the entire time.
Mm.
I mean,
And
you're jumping to conclusions that you're even gonna fucking want to see your first therapist again.
I
Jesus,
mean, well, maybe, maybe not.
I've had to see therapists more than I've had to had second dates.
Sure.
It's work. It's work.
And you're right, and that's fair, and that's fair. But then, what if it does go well? Like
Yeah,
that's how
then
many
yes, that is a concern.
then it's that time in between because I'm looking and I'm thinking back like I shouldn't be comparing myself now to my 16-year-old self that went to therapy, but
Mhm.
like to me it just feels like once I rip that band-aid off it's gonna
I think he
Am I
froze.
the only one who lost him?
No, I
You froze
lost
up
him.
there, Robert.
He
That
froze.
that fucking
Oh,
bug.
am I back.
he's back. Yeah.
Yeah, that fucking bug.
I'm
But
in
now you're
between.
muted. Oh, there we go.
Am I okay?
No, you're good. You're
Yeah,
good.
so yeah, I mean that's honestly when it comes to therapy that's the only thing that has me nervous is
Mhm.
like you know once I pick that scab,
Mhm.
then oh boy, here we go. Because I'm the kind of person if I'm gonna do it, I'm going all in. So
That's another thing I wanted to point out too about group is it's cheaper because the therapist is essentially using the same block of time for multiple people, so that cost is getting chopped down. Um,
And I'd be curious whenever you do try it, I'd obviously love for you to share it on the show, Robert, and I'd love,
yeah,
hopefully,
sure.
to hear nothing but good things and results. I'd also be curious, depending on your results, if you end up moving forward with trying something like group therapy, which I think is an excellent idea that I've advocated since my interview with
Yeah,
Devlon.
I would definitely have to dip my toes into therapy first before group therapy
yeah.
because
Yeah.
that
I
sounds
do
like
think
the
for a
opposite.
lot of guys, the reason why I love that when I talked with Devlon about that is I do think for me in particular, I'm not going to speak for others, but I do think for a lot of guys who are like me, anybody out there who's like me, I ran into a problem with therapy where I got tired of venting and not getting like okay, here's what you do,
Right,
here's
Right.
what I've done in that situation and things
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
But that's not what therapy is designed for. And I think that's where a lot of guys, well, any guy who's like me, again, I'm
Right.
being careful not to speak for others, but for me, I struggled with therapy because I kept going and venting, and they're like, "Yes, I hear you and I understand you," and I'm like, "All right, well, fucking now what?
Yeah. No, it
What
sounds
do
like
I do? Like, I'm
my first
solutions,
experience. Yeah.
I'm solutions focused."
I hated my
And the
first
group
therapist.
therapy. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, that,
Sorry.
my no, my after I got out of anger management, I went into individual counseling after that, and I absolutely hated it because I was like 5 6 weeks in, and I'm just like I'm just coming in here and just bitching for an hour, and she's just like, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then what else happened? What else? And I'm
Can't
just
tell.
like,
I moved through so many therapists for that
yeah.
shit. And I'm
And
like,
I was like, I'm not
tell
getting
me what to
anywhere.
do.
And I mean, it was even worse with that. I was just like, tell me anything, do anything
Yeah.
other than just fucking nod along and just tell me you heard what I said.
Yeah.
And once I moved from that into group, you know, on the first, they go through the orientation when you first come into a new group, and they explain to you, the existing group members explain to you, the therapist will have them explain the rules of the group. And you get a bunch of kind of commitments on the front end where it's just like, you know, if you're going to leave the group, you need to give the group a heads up. What's said in here stays in here. Just like a couple of ground rules. Um, and then they explain to you that the metaphor for the group setting is that it's a dress rehearsal for the real world. And so you are here to model and engage in a literal rehearsal for the life experiences that you're going to have in the real world. So there are going to be group members who trigger. There's going to be somebody in group who the fucking way that they sit in a chair reminds you of the way that your dad sat in a chair, and you're going to have to interact with them when someone brings up something and it triggers you, and y'all get into an argument. You're going to have to fucking have that argument with your dad that you had a million times with a professional who can pause you and say like, what are you feeling right now? Like, I'm noticing you're doing this right now. I noticed that you didn't hear when he just said he apologized about that. What did you hear when he said, like, you need someone to really stop you, and you will, I guarantee you, after you have that experience, the next time your fucking boss at work says something in the way that reminds you of your dad, you'll react to it completely different because you'll recognize it. Like, you will be pulled out of that auto reaction pattern that you have going, and you'll be like, I know what this is. Like, I'm not going to be a slave to just my body's auto reaction to it. I can internalize and process that more is going on than just what's happening in this moment. And you will just move through life with so much lubrication that you didn't have before, and your experiences will really just be so much smoother than you've experienced before. I just
And
cannot.
that breakdown right there, again, I will link the interview. Robert, I honestly I would recommend you go back and watch it. Where, you know, I basically, you know, asked some questions to get to know him and delved a little bit deeper, but I gave him a chance to really just explain his experience because he's got this personal experience with going through therapy and the different types of therapy and this deep understanding where he really opened my mind because I wouldn't say I was anti-therapy, but I thought that for men coaching, I was really more of an advocate for coaching and you know thinking that more men needed that route versus therapy. And a lot of his explanation is what opened my mind to how therapy, you know, if we stop thinking of it in, you know, the stereotypical Sopranos, you're on a couch, you know, give me Prozac kind of way, can be so much more, and it has so much more facets to it, and there are a lot of men out there who don't even realize the different facets to it and the benefits to it. Out of respect for everybody, I would love to keep chatting, but I do want to be respectful of, you know, your guys' time and the, you know, two people out there who ever see this time. And so I did want to move on to our last topic before I let you gentlemen go tonight. And it's been a wonderful conversation. I did want to just go ahead and share something real quick, and please let me know, are you guys seeing these pictures on screen? What
No,
are you guys seeing on screen right now?
I still see the chat window.
Yeah, just chat.
Just the chat. All right, well hopefully I'm sharing it um in the stream. Oh, there we go, there we go.
Yep,
All
see it now.
right. Sorry, I'm still learning this technology. The last thing I wanted to talk about, the one of my best friends, the first co-host, and hopefully soon he was going to return tonight. But the pictures that you see on screen are the reason why he's not here with us tonight. Jesse White, unfortunately, in Maine, they did just get hit with a uh, what do you call it in the Northeast? A hurricane. I don't know. I can't remember what he called it. And these are just some of the pictures um, that came out of it. And I'm trying to get to the
Is the word you're looking for nor'easter?
nor'easter. Thank you,
I was
Jesus.
thinking
I
as
grew
a
up in. I swear I grew up in Jersey. I know the word. Uh, it's just been a long time. We don't get nor'easters out here, but this is some of the sites. He's been struggling with power. I think by the most recent update, he does have power. Many of his neighbors are without power. He had a shed that got blown away, and he's not exactly somebody who comes from extravagant uh, beginnings or current state either. And so it's definitely, I don't mean to laugh. I have a nervous tick where I just do that, but it's really devastating. Unfortunately, that dude. I mean, I love Jesse. He's one of my favorite people in the world. I've got a very deep history with him, and it's unfortunate that he's facing that during the holidays. It brought some
yeah,
things into
that's
perspective
real.
earlier for me, even with the struggles I mentioned earlier. um and I'm learning as I get older to not make it a who is more who's more depressed or who's going through
Depression
worse. Like,
Olympics.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's not a fucking competition. Like, I
Mhm.
can be having my struggles, but also acknowledge, like, holy shit, like, got a lot of sympathy for them. And you know tragedies like that, especially ones, god, I'm almost thankful that most of the problems in my life right now that I would complain about are of my own doing. When you get handed some shit like that right before Christmas, he's a family man, he's got wonderful children, he's a great dad. To get handed something like that right before the holidays that is of no fault of your own and literally an act of nature is just definitely tragic. And so I am waiting on him to answer for any local charities or anything. And if I do get a response with something that I can share, I'll put it in the link to the comments. Obviously, you can go to your Red Cross or your national organizations if you want to donate. And depending on what Jesse needs, Jesse buddy, we can let us know how we can help, if there's anything we can do, and we'll put something together in the men's group. But yeah, just wanted to make sure I touched on that. And for as many problems and stresses as I'm going through, with that in mind, I know I'm blessed to not be dealing with that right now. But I'll stop talking and give you guys a chance to respond.
Yeah, no, that's very horrible. I did not know that was happening up that way. It's very, very sorry to hear that they're dealing with that, especially like you said at this time of year.
Yeah, he shared something about it, just like and then I had to go back and read his comment from like a couple of
Hmm.
days ago, because he shared something about the nor'easter. And I'll be honest, I was in the middle of like my holiday party or just getting back from it, and I was
Hmm.
in my own head, and I didn't really read the comment that deeply. And then just today, he shared those pictures and on our weekly check-in that I finally posted today, that I meant to post on Monday. He shared a very long explanation of everything that's been happening, and it's a state of emergency in Maine right now. And I was like, felt like shit, like, oh my god, I wish I had realized kind of what they're dealing with right now. But he's a great guy. He's coming down to Texas. Oh, Dev, he's coming down to Texas in April with his daughter. Maybe we can
Okay.
all grab a beer at some point.
Yeah, no, very cool.
Yeah.
How was his daughter?
His daughter's the same age as mine, a little bit older, I think. Ariana, how old is Ari? She's 13, right?
13. Okay, so a
She's a
little
year
older.
older than you. Oh, she a year younger? No, she's a year older. Whatever. Go in your room. Love
So,
you. No,
older than my boy.
she's a year older, I think. 13, sweet little girl. I took a trip out to Maine 2 years ago, and got to introduce my daughter to his daughter. They've been online friends for a long time. He's a genuinely good dude. He's been in social work for a long time. raised wonderful children, and we wish you the best, buddy, and love you. And I've still got a sip, so I can say cheers and stay strong. And anything I can do, you let me know.
Absolutely. Second that.
All right. For everybody else out there, I don't know how long it's been. Again, thank you guys. I do want to respect your time. That was some, frankly, great conversation. I loved it. That's why I kind of am going to let these go and run their natural course in most cases until we get to like the 3 hour mark. And I'm going to respect your time a little bit. So thank you very much. Joe, I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you for coming on with your glorious beard and your slick back hair. You look like you're ready to host or lead a metal show. Yeah.
Yeah.
There he goes. It was good having you on, buddy, for the first time. Hopefully you join us again, dude. I really enjoyed it. Robert, you, sir, are a fellow creator. Should share everybody where they can find you and those amazing videos you talked about. Oh, you're unmuted. Fucking God damn that bug. God, that
I'm
bug.
used to Zoom.
Dude,
I'm used
you're
to
a
Zoom.
pro. You're supposed to be a pro, dude.
Anyway, if you type in that guy you met today into anything, I'm the only thing that pops up. So
Nice.
Facebook and YouTube primarily where I post stuff at. Go on there, check it out. When I find the strength here, maybe over the weekend, I'll have my next release of our Philippines series where we go to Boracay, which is an
Nice.
island about an hour south of Manila on a plane. So that was a whole situation. We had sort of a luxury desert island getaway. It was
Very cool.
I'm assuming the rooftop laundry mats are not included in
oh
that
no,
video.
none of that there. No.
Okay. No, honestly, dude, I've told you this. I'll tell you this again. But you know, your quality, everything you've done, you were an inspiration 6 years ago or 7 years ago when we met. You're an inspiration to this day with what you create and the effort you put in. So definitely go check his shit out. Yeah, absolutely, bro. Dev, you are also a fellow creator, even if it's not a YouTube thing. Let everybody know
Yes.
where they can learn more about you.
Yeah, you can check out my photography at ddvocalvisions.com and find me at devilon_vocalvisions on Instagram. Yeah, it's pretty much where most of my work is shared.
Yeah, and I mean, just amazing photography. I was actually showing my girlfriend was it a couple of weeks ago when I reached out to you about booking a session that I haven't gotten back with you about. So I got 2 people on the show that I have started processes with and then didn't follow through because
All in due time, sir. All in due time.
that's me. But I was actually showing her some of your photos. I showed her the one of your son. It was like the whole banner one that you put up on the wall with his soccer
Yeah.
highlights and shit. Dude, you got some talent.
Thanks, man.
Once I'm ready, I can't wait to get some pro headshots. You got to get me doing something cool though. I can't
Yeah,
just
no,
do like
absolutely.
a regular ass pose.
We will produce some things.
Yeah, put me in a Power Ranger suit. I want to be in a Power Ranger suit.
But yeah, man, thanks so much for having me on. It was great talking to y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Go ahead,
real
Joe.
quick, I didn't want to interrupt during it, but since we're at the end, Dev, you said you work for Spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So do I.
Oh, okay.
And
Are
like you were talking,
what department are you in?
Design,
Okay.
HFC design. So I worked for Spectrum when it was Charter,
Before the merger.
and before the merger, we had real Christmas parties.
Oh, okay. So the whole company changed their approach after
We
the
used
merger.
to joke around, but like, who bought who? Because we thought we took over a bunch of Time Warner
Right.
policies.
Nope.
Yeah. What you don't know is Joe is the reason you guys don't have fucking Christmas parties anymore.
No, they just became a whole new entity.
Yeah, maybe we took over Bright House policies.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we're getting a little inside baseball there. Whoever's manager is Brad. Fuck you, Brad. Thank you to anybody who's still watching. I don't know why you are, but I appreciate it. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit stop on this recording, and hopefully we'll see you next time.